A steady breeze blows through an empty town, the result of an undetermined virus that has suddenly wiped humans off the face of the earth. In an empty house, we see a masked man going through, taking batteries, cleaning and taking the photos of the people who once lived there. Outside, the man, Dale, sprays an X in front of the house, to mark that he has completed looting and cleaning. Dale lives a solitary life alone in a library, believing that he is the last man on earth. He sets about his newly found routine of cleaning all the houses in his city. The next day, Dale heads out to loot and clean. He enters the house where he sees two decomposed, almost mummified corpses and takes it upon himself to wrap the corpses up, clean and sanitize the home as per his usual routine, before loading the bodies in his truck and taking them to a burial site that he has created. Here we see that Dale has buried multiple corpses, indicating that he has been alone for a long time. He buries the corpse using a tractor, then wraps up the evening by fishing and cooking a nice meal for himself. This could be an introvert's dream. Before bed, Dale watches some old movies on laptops he has found and cycles through when the batteries die. That night, Dale is awakened by a loud boom. In the distance, fireworks go off, lighting up the night sky in a familiar but eerie way. Entranced, he watches the display but does not step foot outside. The next morning, he heads towards the direction of the fireworks and hears a car alarm in the distance. Dale cautiously approaches the car that has crashed along the street. In the back seat is a gun and in the front is an unconscious blonde girl, causing Dale to stare in shock. The next morning, the girl wakes up in a room with her head bandaged. She is nauseous and throws up before realizing that she is locked inside. She calls for anyone, and hears Dale ask if there is anybody else with her, to which she says no. Dale is curious as to why she is still alive, and why she has a gun. She has no idea how she is alive and carries the gun in case the corpses reanimate. She asks to go to the bathroom and Dale is hesitant, not sure of his comfort level with another human being. He tells her that he will let her out and she should leave immediately as he has prepared a car for her. Dale leads her to the car and gives her the keys, but she tells him that she wants to stay. Dale ignores her and she asks if he is fine with letting the human race go extinct, but he just wishes her luck and leaves. The next day, Dale is fishing on a lake and in the distance, the young girl watches him. She follows him back into town, telling him that she wants to help him clear houses and maybe move on to another town. At the library, she hangs around insisting on sticking with Dale. Dale shares his dinner with her and she tries to start a conversation with him, asking if he knows what happened and where he was at the time the virus hit. Missing his silence, Dale simply tells her that whatever happened does not matter and he is used to being by himself, as even when people were around, he still felt alone. Realizing that her presence is annoying, the girl decides to get her stuff and leave. As she sits in the car, Dale comes out to her, asking her where she is headed. She tells him that she is going to Niagara Falls and not sure where after, so Dale tells her that maybe they can have a trial period and she is happy, introducing herself as Grace. Dale goes on about his routine, while Grace moves into a house nearby where she settles in. Dale is in town when he sees her speed past him, heading to a section of town that he has not cleaned as yet. He finds her inside looking at a corpse in bed. He wants her to leave but she asks him instead to show her how to clean so she can help. He begins clearing out, explaining to her that he is just trying to limit the amount of chaos in the world by doing this. Dale finds a book that the dead woman owed to the library and takes it back with him. While he blows the leaves outside, Grace realizes that all the photos have been taken from the house. Dale brings the body to his burial ground and is about to leave, but Grace convinces him to follow her tradition by holding her breath for 10 seconds as a sign of respect. Later, the two get supplies from a store in town. As he picks out his canned stuff, Grace grabs snacks, asking him what he misses the most, to which he answers his silence. The next day, Grace comes by the library to look for him but Dale is nowhere to be found. She heads downstairs and finds Dale's office and sees the large collection of laptops, an organized list of all the houses and its occupants and countless folders on each of the town's residents, along with the photos he has collected. She hears a sound upstairs and leaves after putting everything back. The following day, Grace heads down another street that Dale has not cleaned. She hears a squeaking sound inside one of the houses and heads in, where she sees a small dirty puppy playing with its toys. Grace bathes the dog and takes it back to the library, letting it loose, ignoring Dale when he tells her that he is allergic. She sits and plays with it while Dale tries to get some reading done and bothers him for a name for the puppy. Later, Dale tries to get some fishing done while Grace stares at him. He prepares dinner for the two and they sit and talk about goldfishes and she thanks him for the meal. Later, Grace calls for the puppy and finds it ripping up one of Dale's books. He tries to take the dog but it bites him, leaving a large wound. Grace apologizes and helps him with his stitches and he tells her thanks for the first time. The next day, Dale sees the dog tied up and lets it loose. Grace wakes him, telling him that the dog is gone and they head out to look for it. Finally, Dale confesses that he let the dog out so it could pee but it ran away, causing Grace to get mad at him. After failing to find the dog, Grace sits in silence drinking a glass of wine. Out of anger, she brings a folder with pictures to him, telling him that he does not care about the people and they are just objects to him. She tells him about her parents and how they passed away, before coming in very close, making Dale uncomfortable. She tells him that when the virus hit, she was getting her cheeks clapped, but Dale tells her that maybe she's had too much to drink, and Grace throws the folder at him angrily before leaving. After a stressful night, Dale goes by the house that Grace stays at and sees a photo of her parents. He brings Grace to a greenhouse, then asks for her help in clearing the rest of the houses if she wants to. The two then get to work, looting, cleaning and disposing of the corpses around the town, holding their breath as a sign of respect. For the next few weeks, the two get close and Dale starts opening up to her and maybe falling for her as well. Later, Grace ties her hair up, revealing a scar on her neck, but ultimately decides to cover it before heading out to clear another house. She comes up on a house that isn't marked on the map and tells Dale before heading inside. She sees the corpse of a woman sitting around a table before Dale joins her. He tells her that she is not supposed to be here, with tears welling up in his eyes. Grace then realizes that this is his house, and the woman is actually Dale's mother. Dale finally decides to clean the house and together they bury his mother. This time, Dale holds his breath sincerely, coming to terms with losing his mother and moving on. Later, they sit alone in a car. Grace is about to tell Dale about where she came from but ends up kissing him instead. After possibly getting the cheeks, Dale wakes to the sound of voices downstairs. He grabs Grace's gun and heads down to see two people who introduce themselves as Grace's parents, Patrick and Violet. They invite a stunned Dale to join them for breakfast, where Grace is looking lost and dejected, avoiding eye contact. They ask about the bodies and are amazed that he took the time to bury them. Dale is shocked to hear that there are possibly thousands of other survivors living in a town called Palm Springs on the west coast, and he tells them to leave. Grace tries explaining to him that they are not actually her parents and she was forced to be their daughter. She begs him to not leave her, but Dale is mad and drives away. Later, Violet comes to speak with Grace, where it turns out that she told Patrick where Grace was. She begs Grace to return as she cannot continue living with Patrick without Grace's company. Patrick comes by the library to ask Dale for a book for the ride back. He compliments Dale on being so organized, and we see where Grace gets her uncomfortable distances from. Dale is not in the mood to talk, but Patrick is adamant. He tells Dale that the commune could use a person like him. He adds that there are scientists back at the community that are working on advanced brain research that could help humanity, and leaves Dale his address in a book, which Dale stashes away without a thought. Grace is packed and is headed back home. Here we see that Violet also has the same scar on her neck. Realizing her freedom has come to an end, she begins to cry uncontrollably. Later, Dale tries to fish, but for the last few weeks he has had the company of Grace and has gotten so used to her, that his beloved silence and emptiness seems now more like torture. Dale gets drunk and heads to his old house, where he throws stones at it out of anger before falling over. That night, Dale has a dream about Grace where he realizes that he does indeed love her and the company she gave him. Later he goes through the photographs, naming all the people on them. Now with a new purpose, Dale begins hunting for the book that Patrick wrote in and finally finds it. Without hesitation, Dale sets out on his journey to find Grace. He comes upon a roadblock of abandoned cars, passing corpses but heading forward, finding another car that has gas and braving his way across the country for the first time in his life. After many hours of driving, Dale reaches the west coast, where he is shocked to see a city full of lights in the distance. Dale is able to find Grace's address and sneaks around back to see Patrick and Violet. Violet comes to the window and sees him, but decides to pretend she saw nothing. Dale heads back to his car and waits until nightfall before breaking into the house, searching until he sees Violet. She is asleep, but hooked up to many wires with nodes all over her. Grace is awake, heavily sedated. She asks him if the dog came back. Dale breaks down in tears, apologizing to her, and begins to help her remove the wires. Dale and Grace head downstairs, but Patrick confronts them. He explains to Dale that this new procedure they have developed is to remove all the bad memories and negative feelings, which would allow humans to move forward and rebuild society without fear of the past. Grace is tired of his bullcrap and shoots him dead. Violet comes out, but is very calm. She tells Grace that she once had a daughter, and tells them where the cleaning instruments are before leaving with a packed bag. Dale and Grace then get back in their car and leave, passing happy-looking residents, going about their daily lives like nothing ever happened. As they drive, Grace apologizes for shooting Patrick, but Dale makes her realize that she is not sorry, and the two drive off to live their lives. Remember to subscribe and turn on notifications, so you can watch more movies like this. Thanks for watching.